There was a time in my life when I felt completely lost, alone, overwhelmed, barely functioning. Not just tired, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. I felt lost in every area of my life. I didn't know who I was anymore, and I didn't know how to find my way back. I went from being a stay-at-home mom to suddenly having to step back into the workforce. And that transition, it wasn't just physical, it was emotional, it was mental, it was survival. I didn't have time to process everything I had been through. Life demanded that I move, even when I felt stuck. So I did what I had to do. I showed up, even when I felt broken. I reached a point where I knew I couldn't keep going like that. So I made a decision that changed everything. I went to therapy for 9 months. Not to thrive, not to be my best self. I was working on becoming functional again. And during that time, something became very clear to me. The real battle was in my mind. The thoughts were constant, heavy, negative, debilitating, fear-filled. And I was exhausted. Because even when everything around me was quiet, my mind wasn't. And I want to be honest about something. There was a time where I didn't even want to step into a church because the pain, the memories, the flashbacks, they were too much. Walking into that space felt overwhelming. So I didn't force myself. But even in that distance, God never left me. He met me where I was, not where I thought I needed to be. He was with me in my car, in my home, in my silence. And that's something I had to learn. Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty. And even after those 9 months, healing didn't stop. That was just the beginning. Because healing isn't something you just complete. It's something you commit to. The truth is, I didn't have the answers. What I went through wasn't something people around me understood. No one in my family had experienced it. No one in my circle could relate. And on top of that, no one around me was homeschooling. So here I was, trying to heal, trying to raise my children, trying to educate them, trying to provide, all at the same time. And I felt like I was navigating life without a map. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're doing everything you can, but you're still unsure if you're doing it right? Like you're carrying so much, but no one can actually see the weight of it. That was my reality every single day. So how did I start rebuilding my life? Not all at once, not with some big life-changing plan. I started small, very small, because small felt manageable. Small felt safe. I gave myself one goal a week. That's it. One. Week 1, I told myself, this week I will read 1 chapter of a self-help book. That was it. And I did it. The next week, this week, I will make sure I eat lunch every day because even that felt like a challenge all the time. So here I was reading a chapter a week and eating lunch daily. So the following week, I will create 1 hour for myself. So from 9 to 10 after my kids went to bed, that time was for me. And I honored that time. There were no distractions, no guilt, just me. And slowly, I kept adding more. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of something. But here's what carried me through. Even when I didn't realize it at the time, even when I felt alone, I was never alone. God never left me. even in the moments where I felt disconnected, even when I couldn't step into a church, even when the pain felt too heavy to even pray. He was still there. He stayed with me in my lowest moments, in my car, in the bathroom, in my silence. He carried me when I didn't have the strength to carry myself. And looking back now, I can see it so clearly. There were moments I should have broken and I didn't. There were days I didn't think I could make it through, and somehow I did. That wasn't just me. That was God holding me together when I was falling apart. And at the same time, life didn't pause for me to heal. I was homeschooling my children, working full time, helping them process their emotions while I was still trying to understand my own. I had to be their safe place when I was still searching for mine. I had to teach them while I was still learning. I had to lead them while I felt lost. And there were days where I questioned everything. Am I doing enough? Am I messing this up? Are they going to be okay? But what I didn't realize then is just that showing up was enough. Choosing them every single day, even when I was struggling, that mattered more than perfection ever could. But the biggest shift came when I stopped letting my thoughts control me and I started confronting them, because the battlefield was in my mind. Every negative thought, every fearful thought, every limiting belief, I began to counterattack. I took control of my thoughts and I removed fear little by little. I became intentional about what I consumed, what I watched, what I listened to, what I allowed into my space. I stayed in my self-help books. I stayed in the Bible. I memorized more scripture, speaking life over myself. Even when I didn't fully believe it yet. And over time, those words began to take root. I also created boundaries. And at first, that was hard because I wasn't used to choosing myself. But those boundaries, they became protection. They created a hedge around my life, around my peace, around my energy. And that's when things started to shift even more. Because when you protect your peace, you create space to grow. And I began to flourish. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was becoming stronger, more aware, more intentional. And if you're watching this right now, feeling lost, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you don't know where to start, I want you to understand this. You don't have to rebuild your life all at once. You rebuild it one small promise at a time, one small step at a time, one small decision at a time. And those small steps, they will change everything, because clarity comes from movement, not from waiting. And healing comes from allowing yourself to begin. I started becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone more grounded, someone who no longer lived in survival, but was learning how to live with intention and purpose. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how everything I went through led me to my purpose, and how your pain can lead you to yours as well. Because your story doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. Continue this journey with me. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Live your season.